What's happening, guys? Welcome to Let's Talk Comics. My name is Mike, and tonight we are going to talk about all the comics I picked up today from the dollar box sale, my local shop. I had a handful of long boxes out. Everything in there was $1, so I went through there, grabbed a pretty wide variety of stuff. For $1, you can't go wrong with anything. We'll start right here on the top. X Factor Annual number 2. Now, the significance for this issue is I actually had this as an 11-year-old kid. I distinctly remember having this issue here. Not really because I liked X Factor, but it had Power Pack in there, and I was a diehard Power Pack fan. At that time, that book was specifically for my age group, and it really hit me like a ton of bricks. So when I saw that Power Pack was in this issue, I had to have it. Couldn't remember anything about it right now, and I'm sure, the story is a typical annual story, passable, but I just had to pick it up for pure nostalgia reasons. Then we've got a ragged out small trade paperback here of Predator versus Judge Dredd. I've kind of gotten into Dredd over the last handful of months. So I saw this trade paperback right here, and even though it's beat up, I'd like to read this story. I got back into Dredd after doing a rewatch, or I got into Dredd after doing a rewatch of the Carl Urban movie. And I went down the wiki rabbit hole on Judge Dredd and really kind of got into him. Ordered a handful of the essential storylines off of Amazon. So I'm looking forward at reading this one. Not sure if this will have as much social commentary as some of the other stuff does. But like I said, for $1, you can't go wrong. Then I got this other Superman versus Predator trade paperback. That's a fun matchup. Anyone who knows me knows I am a diehard Legion of Superheroes fan. So I had to pick up this annual right here. Who Shot Laurel Kent. And you've got Brainiac, Colossal Boy. I imagine that is, I don't know if it's Shrinking Violet or I can't think of the girl's name who can phase through stuff, or her, but that's Chameleon Boy right there at the top. Then I got another Legion of Superheroes annual, The Legend of Valor, who had a really fun ongoing in the late 90s during 0 Hour. Adventures of the DC Universe. For those of you who are not familiar, this was a short-lived ongoing that DC put out. Each issue was a standalone story in the style of the, Superman Adventures, Batman Adventures, Justice League cartoon, that style, featuring characters. Each issue had a different character in there. Like this one has the Shazam family. There's another one that has Impulse, Flash. Just basically whoever was in the DC universe got a one shot in that Timiverse style. Jackpot and Black Cat one shot. Then this right here, I was really glad to see this one. This is Action Comics Annual number 1. It has a John Byrne story with Art Adams artwork. Get out of here, cat. And this one, there is a vampire that comes to Metropolis. I believe it's Metropolis. And this is one of the first meetings between, obviously post-crisis, this is one of the first meetings between Batman and Superman. Then I got a World's Finest number 300. I'm not sure what this is about here, but it looked pretty cool. Look at all these guest stars. Outsiders, Justice League of America, and the new Teen Titans. Man, this book's slam-packed. Then, like I said, I love the Legion, so I had to pick up another issue of this Legion right here. Superboy rejoins the Legion of Superheroes. Now, Superboy, he left the Legion at one point. I don't remember if this right here, it says they're advertising Superman 2 right here. So I kind of think this is before Crisis. I know that there was a lot of time travel with Superboy in the Legion, and at one point they decided to take Superboy off the board altogether. They didn't want to have him constantly bouncing back and forth between his time period and the Legion's era. Plus, when they redid Superman's origin post-Crisis, they did not have him being Superboy at all. So it's really confusing, and yet it's another one of the reasons why they did the original Crisis. But anyway, like I said, I love the Legion. You can't go wrong with that. Then Astro City, I've spoken before about how great this book is. This was a one-shot. I had never seen this before. So this looks like between Samaritan and his archenemy. This was a very fun book I found. Spider-Man, 101 Ways to End the Clone Saga. This was kind of a tongue-in-cheek book that Marvel put out, basically poking fun at itself for how long the Clone Saga ran. And this here was a real fine 5-star superhero. This was one of the dollar comics, or when they had the big dollar price point on them. But this is a classic Neil Adams cover right here. And you see he's hitting everybody. He's got Flash, Atom, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and he's got Batman right there at the forefront. So really classic shot Neil Adams cover right here. Then Evan Dorkin's World's Funniest. This is an Elseworld story in which they parody the deaths and fall of Superman and Batman, which DC did at the time. And you want comedy, Evan Dorkin does comedy really well. Then Transformers Ghostbusters, issue number 1. I don't even know what this is about, but it just looks so crazy. I had to pick it up. I know I see on the cover that it has Starscream's ghost. Starscream appeared on the Transformers cartoon as a ghost after the Transformers movie. So I don't know if they're setting this after the Transformers movie, but here on Earth. So who knows? I really look forward to reading it. And then Amazing Heroes. This is like a little fanzine magazine. And right here it says a biography of Batman. I'm not sure exactly when this came out. Probably early 80s, 83, 84. Something like that. So the biography of Batman would probably be incredibly out of date by this point. But I always like looking at these type of magazines, these Amazing Heroes, because they, as opposed to Wizard, they really treated the comics very seriously. Very, they were not as juvenile as the Wizard magazine was. They were a little bit stuffy, which is probably why Wizard took off. But they always had some really good stuff in here. Whenever I find these for cheap, I'll pick them up. So a bunch of really cool purchases. Nothing of any note. But like I've said before, for $1, you can't go wrong. So that is all the pickups I had today. And I look forward to thumbing through all this stuff and seeing what I got. Till next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Bye-bye.